Perfect. And we are live, episode 53 of the Bayou Dragons podcast. It is me, reoccurring guest, Ryan Warhola. He's been on countless. Rance May, he's been on countless. And a very dear friend and somebody we've been wanting to have on for a while, professional bass angler Andrew Upshaw.
I'm here. I'm on my first one. I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah.
Well, kind of. I don't know what to really think about this. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I saw you. I've never known, I don't know a bunch about your personal life, like on if you drink or anything, but I saw you make a big Crown drink before you got on here, so you're getting primed and ready for the Bayou Dragons podcast.
Well, you didn't actually mention that I actually had some champagne and some cranberry juice with my wife before that.
Yeah. You've been primed. You've primed and ready.
No, I just didn't want to bring that on the show and get made fun of, to no end. So.
And that big ass wine glass you're drinking.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, no, you might have, but no, I've drank red wine on the podcast multiple times. I don't give a shit. These people are the people that do listen don't give a damn either. But me and Rance have known Andrew for quite some time. His family moved up here at the lake when you were a little kid, young kid, and been our neighbor for a long time, and basically just worked your ranks up to pro. I was just going to kind of pick your brain on, I know you were like the youngest to ever.
Yeah, I was the first college angler to make the Classic, was kind of my claim to fame. I've kind of been fishing for ever. I mean, when we moved to the lake, I think I was like 6th or 7th grade, and then just kind of took off from there. I fished all the time and just kind of made a career of it. I remember when I was in school, I used to get made fun of by teachers and by people in class. It'd be like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was like, "I just want to go fishing."
You too, huh? You too.
Yeah. And it kind of happened, so it worked out.
Yeah, and you're able to make a living off of it. You won the at Nacogdoches, Stephen F. Austin. Mm-hmm. You fished college there, and you won the championship, like the college outdoor championship. And then how was your first year whenever you were pro?
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I mean, like college fishing, like it prepares you to travel and do all these different things, but it does not prepare you for just how amazing the fishermen are. I mean, because those guys are just ridiculous, and they catch them everywhere. Even whenever the fishing is hard on you doesn't mean it's hard on them, because they're going to figure it out one way or another every single place we go. I honestly, to this day, I've never been to a professional style tournament where everybody didn't just absolutely throttle them, even in the worst conditions. So if you show up, you're like, okay, I think it's going to take 12 pounds a day to get a check. You just go ahead and add a pound to that most of the time. And then that's just to get a check. To make a top 10, you got to go out there and crush on them. And these guys do it every week. It's unbelievable. Like it just changes the way you look at things, look at any type of tournament, really.
So in the last year, you've fished quite a bit of opens. What's the hardest lake so far that you have had to fish this year?
Oh, God, I have fished a lot. I mean, honestly, the hardest lake for me this year was Santee Cooper that I fished this current year, and I think there was like 60 bags over 20 pounds on day one or something, like 50 bags or whatever it was, something ridiculous like that, and I weighed in like 7 pounds on day one. It just was hard on me. Like I didn't make very good decisions. I lost a lot of fish. Like just was not a good place for me in comparison to others. I mean, Lake Louisville and Dallas is a really hard one. I've been to a lot of really, really tough fisheries, but for the most part, the last couple of years in the opens, they take us to good places at good times. Don't get me wrong, we'll go to a bad place here and there, but for the most part, we go to really good places. And these guys, you're talking 225 boats. I think that's what makes it harder than anything.
Yeah.
Is we just have so many boats in every single event, even in some of these smaller lakes.
Yeah, I never knew how they actually choose that, what lake. I know they rate fisheries around the country of how good they are, but when to fish each one per month, what they think that y'all could crush them at, I guess. Best.
We work around the elite schedule, so the elites, they get first dibs on everything. So lakes, times a year, that kind of stuff. So we kind of run second fiddle, but we're close fiddle now at least, and so we get good locations and we get good places to go and good times a year. because they want us to catch them. I mean, they need us to catch them. The better we catch them, the more press they get, the better the weights are, and in return, more people want to go fish them. But I mean, when it all comes down to it, is money. I mean, at the end of the day, like, who's going to pay the most to have you come there? I mean, they've had the elites come down to Sabine River, 3 of the last 4 years. And I mean, I've been to a lot of fisheries across the United States, and that is not one of the best fisheries across the United States at all.
Well, not even close.
And so it's all about money at the end of the day. And they bring great crowds at Sabine. So, I mean, for the lack of fishing that it is, at least they have the great crowds. They have a good venue. I mean, it really works out well. So, I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 there, I mean, you want all those things, you want these great crowds, but you also have to have some good fishing too. So at least the Sabine has showed out a few different times as far as some decent catches.
Yeah, well, most of those catches do not happen in the Sabine.
No, they don't. That's what's so funny.
People run hours out of their way.
But that's what's cool about that tournament too.
Yeah.
Like that there's people that drive out into the damn Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, no, that's so cool.
Go to Houston to go fishing, and these bios and shit. It's so wild to me.
I loved watching that one just because I can pretty much, if they're in Hildebrand or Taylor's, I know exactly where you are. I know that stump. Yeah. I grew up there. I know that stump.
For sure. Yeah, that year that Hackney won it, like a few years ago, like, that was cool that he did win it in, right there where it was, just throwing a frog, just.
Oh, no, that was legit. I talked to all those guys, and I got a bunch of them that are buddies, and I remember Ish was catching them close to take off one year, and in like this dead-end canal, and he was like one of the only ones there, and he was crushing them on a frog in there. And it's just cool to see how every year it's a little bit different, but every year these guys are getting so good on that body of water. I mean, that they are really
how far the weights have came.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it used to be 12 and 13 pounds, and now it's literally 17, 18 pounds a day.
No doubt.
Crazy.
Yeah, you're up.
Whoops.
Wow.
My bad.
You're not new at this, dude.
I know. I didn't know my phone was on ring. My bad.
Yeah, oh, God.
Before I forget this, touch back on your deal, like, every tournament that happens, whether it's an open or elite series, and I get on there and I look at the weights of these guys that, on these lakes, and some of these lakes I fished, and, like he was saying, are tough. I couldn't imagine tournament style fishing them like that on the highest level. But it always blows my mind how many guys figured it out.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's just like, how did this many, like, in
a short amount of time,
and in that, and because y'all have such the regulations on when you can and can't be on the water and all that kind of stuff, so you really have a small window to really figure out for 4 days, 3 days on the opens, I guess. But, it's just, and a lot of people, I see comments on Facebook and stuff like that when Bass posts, like, the schedule for the year. It's like, oh, the same places again, to touch back on that. Yeah. It's like, those are the best fisheries.
Yeah.
It's like, they're not just going back there because it's like, and it's like, and I get there's lakes all over the place. But like you said, it's the venue and it's the people and it's all of this stuff that goes into it, and the money.
Well, there's a lot of really great lakes. If you go anywhere across the United States, I've been fortunate enough to fish a lot of them. The lake might be the most fantastic lake there is, but there's literally nowhere around to actually hold the tournament. There's not a boat ramp enough to actually launch 225 boats. I know there's been a couple of events that we went to where they actually gave us different boat ramps. They're like, okay, 40 of you are launching here, 30 are launching there, 50 are launching here, because they did not have a big enough boat ramp. And so, like, it really comes into play, and not even just that, but lodging. I mean, you're trying to put up 225 pros, and we haven't really filled out the co-angler side of things, but, I mean, let's say 125 co-anglers. I mean, you got to have quite a bit of lodging, a lot of VRBOs, a lot of hotels, and a lot of these places don't have that. I mean, Toledo Bend doesn't have that. I mean, I've lived here forever, and I mean, like, we have one hotel. The only good thing we have is quite a few VRBOs and stuff, but, I mean, even then, like, to really hold a 225-boat tournament here that's not locals, that are people traveling in, is hard.
I was definitely excited to see Toledo Bend get some love this year, though.
I wish they would stop giving it love, honestly. I need people to stay away from it.
I hear you.
Toledo's on its way back. It's a great, great fishery. It's easily my favorite fishery in the entire United States, and only because I live here and I grew up here and I know what it's capable of. The grass is coming back. The fishing is getting better. And I think we're a couple years removed from Toledo Bend just really firing off. The elite kind of scratched the surface of what it actually can be.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the fishing here has gotten way, way better. Now,
how many 30-pound bags were caught?
Oh,
the top 20 were over 30.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Insane, dude, on day one.
Yeah, I mean, they catch them here. I mean, this place is just loaded. And that's the time of year to catch a big bag.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Tater Reynolds. I mean, he's been crushing it here. He catches a lot of really big bags. And, I mean, as the more forward-facing sonars evolving in our sport, the bigger the bags are going to come as well. So it's all going to get better, truly.
How do you feel about the whole...
Oh, God.
I was just about to ask that question.
I was just going to...
Because that's the biggest question going on right now. You listen to any podcast, Bass After Dark, Chris Aldane, all these people, forward-facing is the number one thing that's talked about.
Oh, yeah. Rightfully so. I mean, it's changed the scope of the entire fishing industry. Like, there has never, in the history of fishing, ever been something that changed the way that we present ourselves to fish more than forward-facing sonar. Don't get me wrong, side imaging had its time, and I was around when it came out, and I was fishing professionally when it came out. And literally, we would idle ledges on Kentucky Lake for 3 straight days and never make a cast. And I mean idle all day long, from daylight till dark, to find these schools of fish, and then when you found them, you go crush them. Well, what forward-facing sonar has done is it's changed it even further. It's just extended our view. It's almost like sight fishing without in any depth of water. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the depth is. So as far as my view on it, there's kind of some really great positives and some negatives. I mean, the positives are I can take a kid out there or any beginner angler, and they're going to get hooked on it pretty quick. And it's easier to catch fish. It's more fun, because don't get me wrong. Like, I know when I was a kid, you'd go out there fishing in the boat all day and you didn't catch anything. That sucked. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's fun to get out and go fish.
I've been in the boat with you whenever that happened.
Yeah, I mean,
many times.
Yeah, I mean, and that
as a kid.
Don't get me wrong. Like, it's cool, like whatever, but like at some point you'd like to catch some, and what this is doing is it's giving the opportunity to catch more fish. Now, whether they're big ones or little ones, then that's irrelevant. What is relevant is the fact that it has gotten more people fishing. The negative side of things, as far as from the tournament aspect of things, I mean, from what I've learned over the last couple of years, is you got to basically throw out the window just about everything that you know about bass fishing and just forget it. And just go, and it's basically a relearning period in tournament fishing. People make fun of all the kids that are out there and they're video gaming. Dude, I'm a great gamer. Like, I'm going to go play Call of Duty probably after this. And, like, I'm going to go wreck some people in Call of Duty. Just because it's a video game don't mean it's going to translate into fishing. I mean, I'm decent. I'm going to say I'm decent at forward-facing sonar. I'm not great at it. But I also have so many years of back knowledge of how to target and to create a game plan to go catch bass. And so that's always creeping. So instead of going out there and using forward-facing sonar for 9 straight hours and not catching them for 5 of them, it's hard for me to do that because I'm going to look over there and be like, that's a windy point. And I can go throw a spinnerbait over there and I can go crush a couple of them real quick. And so it just kind of changes the way you look at things. So I've had to really reevaluate my tournament fishing and kind of look at different things. And the flip side of that too is, the big cry right now is it's bad from a conservation standpoint. And to be honest, there's 0 studies out yet. It is too fresh, too new. I do think there eventually should be some limits changed as far as crappie goes, because it does make it way easier to catch crappie.
You don't really have to know what you're doing to go smash on a crappie, man.
And so it does make that easier. As far as bass, I mean, the bass have already adjusted. I can assure you, I can go shine it around on some fish on bait balls, and if those fish have been hit by forward-facing sonar before, they are running the other direction as soon as you shine on them. So, I mean, yes, there's it's definitely opened our eyes to where fish are most of the time, but is it making them easier to catch? Sometimes, I would say.
You still have to fish. You still have to be able to fish.
Gotta fish. Like, you still.
I think most people's experience that, aren't really, really good at it are they go find fish and they can't make the fish bite and they don't understand why it doesn't work, and it's just like, well, it's because it's still fishing.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because you see the fish doesn't mean that, and that's kind of my deal on it. It's like, well, you get good at that. That's it. Just like anybody gets good at a bait.
Yep.
And then that's their specialty, and then that's really how they make their living, really throwing that bait. And I feel like forward-facing sonar is like another bait for people, and whenever they figure it out and they master it, they're killing people.
That's a good analogy.
I mean, that's really the way that I look at it. Is it's just another tool that's came up in the game, and the people that have mastered it have pissed off the other people that haven't. And I feel like that's came up, like, for example, just fishing in general. Like, how many people has Jacob Wheeler pissed off just by being that good?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just by smashing fish.
Well, and I'm going to just go on a limb and say, like, I've known Wheeler. Wheeler was in my wedding.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The dude is one of the, if not the best fisherman I've ever been in the boat with, ever. And I mean, like, and I've been in the boat with some really big-time fishermen. And this was I've known him when he won his very first event, before he even won his first event. And, I mean, the guy's the most natural, like, just off-the-cuff fisherman that I've ever met. And he adapted this sonar into his techniques and into his game, and it's just elevated him even more. And I didn't even know that was possible, but it did. You take it away, and he's still going to go crush on them.
Guy's a gamer, man.
He is a gamer.
That dude is a gamer.
But to your point, as far as, like, the techniques and stuff, that is a great point. But the other side of that, too, is – and the reason these young guys are so good at it is not because they're really good at video games, and they might be great, whatever.
It's not a correlation.
That's all they've grown up and learned.
Yeah.
And so when these 20-year vets like myself, I'm about a 10 or 15-year vet now, but I've got 15 years of knowledge of fishing. Well, I've got that 15 years of knowledge on top of this. So, and growing up, we didn't, for the most part. You had the Tommy Biffles that were like the Biffle Bug and the flippers, and the Denny Brar that was a flipper. You had these really technique-specific guys. But over the last 10 years, the guys have elevated to a point where you didn't necessarily have to master a technique, but you needed to be good at everything.
Yeah.
You needed to be so versatile that it didn't matter what the heck they threw at you, you could figure out how to catch them. And that's what's made guys like myself and others that are similar to me, that are super versatile, that literally can go from, St. Lawrence River to the muddiest river in the world and still be able to go catch them.
Mm-hmm.
So hard, because in our mind, we have 20 rods on our mind of different things we can go do, where these forward-facing sonar guys, these kids, a lot of times, that's all they've ever learned to do, because they're like, dang, I can get really good at this. And they mastered it so well that they didn't even have to worry about any of that other stuff. We're over here with 20 rods on our deck to go do all this other crap. But in reality, they've just said, you know what, I'm just going to go shine around until I see 20 fish, and eventually one of them's going to bite. And I say 20, that might be in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I mean,
oh yeah.
And it's a numbers thing. And I think it's probably the smartest thing in the world, because I'm a numbers guy anyway. I mean, like, I grew up I got a minor in math. I mean, so when I start looking at the statistical side of things, like, if I throw in front of 4,000 bass in the day, the odds of me throwing in front of 10 of the right bass is pretty darn good, right? But if I just go blindly fishing down the bank, I might throw in front of 250 bass and maybe 20 of them bite and only 2 of them are the right ones. But I increase those odds the more fish I throw in front of, and that's all these guys are doing. The more fish they throw in front of in a day, the more chance they have to catch the big ones.
So it's really funny to me that this sonar game is so controversial in the bass world, because we've been doing this for about 10 years or so in the marlin game.
Yeah.
And we're fishing for big money. Yeah. We're fishing different places all over the world. And now at this point when we fish marlin, we just run around with it's an Omni. Basically, it's a 360. Furuno makes it. Yeah. And it's basically live scope, but it's 360, and I can't believe they haven't came out with it.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming. But it's been around. It's progressively gotten better.
Yeah.
And we just drive around. We keep our baits in the boat, drive around until we find a fish, and then put baits in front of it. And that's how we marlin fished. And that's been going on for probably 10 years. It started with, it was like a sweeper, which was kind of like what 360 is.
360, yeah.
Yep. And then now it's to the point now where it's live. It's just a 360 pulse every 3 seconds. Boom, boom, boom. And it's just a live pulse in 360.
And then it like marks
the fish. Yeah. And I can tell between a marlin, and I can tell if it's a school tuna or whatever it is, and we pull in front of it, put the baits out, catch the fish, move on to the next one.
Yep. That's crazy.
I've seen that shit. He literally, that time we caught those 2 big blues on that trip, I was up in the captain's spot with him, and he's like, that's a big marlin. Drop lines down, troll around for a little bit, smack, 600-pounder. Like,
yeah,
like legit. I was like, well, shit. He definitely knows what the hell's going on. And I'm dumb to the whole. I don't even have live scope or anything like that. But to me, it's available to all the pros. Y'all all can get it. Mm-hmm. It's just who's better at it.
It's a matter of learning it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys that are the very best. Like you got guys that have 5 and 6 transducers on their boat of live scope or forward facing sonar, and
the
guys that are really, 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 really good at it have one.
Yeah.
Because they don't need all that other, like, they got the one they need. They can just go out there and catch them. Like, they're so simplistic in their mind. It's like, I don't need all that.
It's crazy the technology that's going on right now. And I'm so new to the bass thing. I'm like just barely tipping into it.
He just bought a boat this past year.
Yeah, like I'm just now into this deal. But so the way I've always learned my whole life is I just immerse myself. So I just watch everything I can watch on YouTube. Like when I'm in my office, I have a big screen TV like to the right of my computer when I'm not working, or when I am working, I have something bass wise going on, just try to immerse myself in it. And I watched a video that Chris Haldane put on, and it was at Toledo, and it was the first event of the year for the elites, and he was going through and showing everybody's electronics loadout. One dude had 4 16-inch Garmin's at the helm. Like, holy, I have a freaking 72 Viking that doesn't have 4 16-inch Garmin's at the helm. Like, what in the world is going on? And then the guy had like 3 up front, and I'm just like, holy, like, how do you? And he's like, well, I got one for the left side on my back live scope. I got one for the right side. I've got one. I'm like, how do you even keep up with what's going on?
Well, so that was Brian Schmidt, and Brian Schmidt's a friend of mine. And so his deal is the only reason he had 4 on the back, and granted, I think it's overkill myself. But
it's a heck of a picture.
No, it's great. But the only thing I'll say is he didn't trust running both sides, like shooting out in either direction and getting rid of his side scan, because he likes his side scan so much and he's trusted it for so many years that it was hard for him to say, okay, I'm going to sell out completely on these 4 transducers running off my jack plate and trust everything I'm seeing when I can see everything on the bottom with my side scan. So he literally runs a side scan on his 2 middle units, and then he runs
that makes sense.
His forward on either direction on his outside units. On like one map popped in there somewhere. But
so correct. I'm just diving into this deal, and I have side scan on my boat, but side scan leaves a history. The perspective or forward facing, it's there, and you've got to see it.
Yep. That's the thing. Like, and it is a very.
If you miss
specific,
it, you're done. And I can imagine if you're idling. I mean, my boat idles probably 4 miles an hour. I mean, it's like a blip.
And you want to go fast. I mean, the faster you idle, the more you can see.
The more water you cover, right?
Yeah, and so like if you, I mean, it's as simple as me looking at the camera and looking back, and you miss whatever you go by. I mean, and it doesn't replay. I mean, it is a live image. So I understand where he's coming from having it. You know, there's a lot of different setups you can have. I personally only have two 12-inch Lowrance Live Pros on there, and I mean, they're great. I mean, it does what I needed to do, but, you know, and I have a big unit on the front. But, I mean, truth be told, the only props and the other props I'll give to Schmitty, and that's what Schmitty is what we call him, but is he sold out to it. And I can... Dude, like, he's an older guy. Well, he's been fishing. And, like, you want to talk about all these guys complaining and like, don't. Yeah. I mean, at least he was like, you know what? By God, I'm going to adapt my game.
That's what he said in the video. He said, hey, he goes, I'm not about it, but I've got to adapt because I'm trying to learn it. I'm trying to be there, and I'm trying to compete. So I mean, if that's your job,
I mean,
I get
dude, I've had to adapt to everything. So, I mean, I completely understand. Yeah. Like, I relate to that so much. But granted, I didn't put 416s on the back. I don't even think I'd have enough battery space in my boat to be able to run all that. But I have a lot of respect for what at least he's given the effort as to trying to adapt his game. And there's a lot of old guys, and I say old guys my age even, that are like, screw that, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm going to go do this my way, and they're at the bottom of the standings. Hell, I've been at the bottom of the standings. And it's not really because of that, just because of some bad luck stuff. But, you know, that's just part of fishing. Hell, everybody last year, I was right there on the cut of the elites last year, and I had 4 or 5 really good events, and every single one of them I came either throwing a swim jig or frog or flipping. And everybody's like, oh, he's out there scoping around. It's like, no, I was flipping, I was frogging, I was swimming. You know, I mean, I'm up there in the stuff, and anytime I went out there and started trying to scope around is when I screwed up and I didn't catch them. So, you know, it has been one of those adapting things for me too. I get it. I mean, it's hard to do. It's hard to sell out, and so I haven't been able to.
I think the talk will go down whenever they just become cheaper. Everybody can get them. Everybody won't give a shit.
Oh no, they'll still complain about it because they're going to complain about it.
I think there's
because they can't use it.
Yeah.
I think there's a crossroads.
That's what I was saying. It's not just because you own it doesn't mean that you're a fucking live scoper.
But I think
that's not how it works.
I think there's a crossroads coming. I think there's going to be in the professional bass world. There's going to be a limit on screens.
Yep.
There's going to be a limit on transducers.
Yeah.
I just see that coming.
I'm surprised they didn't do it this year.
Yeah,
because they were talking about it. They talked to us about it. Our little group, our little circle of guys, and you know, they had talked about limiting screens, but the problem was everybody, by the time they even discussed it, had already had their boats rigged, they had everything done, and it's just not enough time. I mean, like, if they were to go bust up on the scene in January and say, hey, by the way, you're limited to 48 inches of screens and you get one live transducer, there's a lot of people that had to reevaluate a lot of their stuff. I mean, just like Schmitty. I mean, he had 4 on the front. I actually think he has 4 on the front.
Does he?
Or 4 in the front and 4 on the back.
Remember. I just saw
He's got 8 graphs.
The
and
4 on the back were impressive to me because they're all in a row. It's just like, and it's kind of like
he's reading the book.
Yeah, it's kind of like panorama.
Yeah, it's super cool, man. Yeah. And then you got these guys that have went out and spent thousands of dollars on these giant screens, these 24-inch units. And, I mean, that would put people in the bind. I mean, you know, so I do think there's definitely going to be a limit. I think it'll be 48 inches. Or everything I've been told, it's going to be 48 inches, and that's combination inches from front to back. And that'll be one live transducer only. So you can mount it on the back of your boat, you can mount it on the front of the boat, whatever, but you get one.
Obviously, everybody's going to have it on the front.
Everybody's going to have it on the front.
Seeing that's to me, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I don't have a problem with that.
No,
I mean,
not in a tournament setting. That's
I think a lot of anglers, it's still the problem is there's still going to be people, and there's always people. That's what people don't understand. There's always going to be people that are going to complain, are going to talk trash about whatever you're doing, no matter what it is. You're going to have people that disagree that that's not a stiff enough penalty, or that's not enough of a change to make a difference, because people are still going to win with it. Yeah, almost every single event.
But then again, there's going to be people who are going to go kick their ass doing the traditional ways. It's going to happen.
It'll just make the eyesore not as bad.
Yeah,
it's truly what it is. I mean, it'll make it not look like some pipe dream. Like, man, how am I supposed to afford 8 graphs and be a rookie on the Elite Series? Because in reality, you don't need all that. I mean, I do everything I need to do with Right now I'm right over 48 inches because I have a 16 to 12 and a 12 and a 12. So 2 12s on the back. Yeah, you can't talk no trash no more.
Oh, Robert May. Hey, Rob, when you listen to this, you just messed that up.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Way to go, Rob. Checking to see what we caught.
Yeah, that's exactly. He called multiple times today. We're in the boat. So, how are you doing?
I actually called you and you didn't answer.
Did
by
you?
the way, heck yeah, I did.
I don't think you did.
You want to make a bet?
I'll let you look at my recent call list. That's everything right now.
Hey, what time does that say?
12:40? Oh, he did call. Didn't ring on your end.
He deleted it already.
Yeah, deleted.
Damn. Yeah, that's how good. No,
called him out.
Let's see, at 12:40. So that at 12:40 you would have got the. It probably was honestly. I think Robert called me at 12:40. That was probably when we were talking to him on the phone when we were chasing them fish with no forward sonar.
Them old fish.
Dude.
Hey, yeah, speaking of old school, we were on schooling fish today, and they wouldn't, they'd only really come to the top and start schooling for like 15 seconds at a time. And it might be like 20 minutes in between when they'd really get fired up. And they were just on like a grass flat, so they'd just go back down in the grass. And then they'd fire the bait back up and they'd go back down. But we didn't have live scope, so we couldn't follow them around. So we're just chunking and whining, just getting but every once in a while, old school, you'd come across a group, one would bite, and then they're fired back up. And then you're back in them.
With that little section that y'all are in, wherever it is, and it is a grass flat right there.
Yeah,
I'd probably, if there's some wind on it in the morning, probably go over there with a spinnerbait and see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah,
you might catch a couple.
That might be the plan because it went from. Like
I was throwing a thunder cricket today.
He was throwing.
You catch some on it?
Yeah.
He caught a 3.5 pounder on it.
Heck yeah.
That was his first fish of the day.
Yeah, it was.
He was struggling. I say struggling. He wasn't getting the bites. I got the bites, we had. I had 5 keepers, and we're just chasing those fish around. I had like 2 or 3 with the crankbait, but they were just like pound and 3/4, maybe 2 pound. Like we just automatically knew they weren't going to keep. Threw it back, and he threw that thunder cricket out. Pop, caught one. And I was like, and he's like, "Oh, this is a good one," and that ended up being our biggest fish of the day.
But I'll tell you, like, to deal with that schooling, if we would have had live scope, they're just every time that they would fire up, there was like a 9-pounder that would jump fully extension out of the water, just right in the middle of that school. So every time we throw in there, we're just like, please be the one that bites.
I caught like 5, and every time I hooked up, I just automatically, when I felt it come back, I was like kind of shitting my pants. I'm like, this might be it, and then it breaks the surface and it's skipping across the top of the water. I'm like, son of a bitch. No, it's not.
I've been there, unfortunately, a few times.
You've what my probably favorite photo, and I don't know if it was here, like over at the community hole or not, with that Alabama rig where you had 4 or 5 fish, like studs.
Yeah.
Was it here?
No.
Or it wasn't here? No. Okay.
No.
I honestly don't remember it. Because it was all, like, you had like 30, how many pounds was it?
It was
like,
a lot.
It was
it was a lot.
It was so much. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. You're like, in one cast.
Yeah.
And I'm like.
Yeah, I had 4 on there, and I had a 5th one. I'm pretty sure there was a 5th one on, and it came off. And, it was well over 20 pounds. But
yeah, in one cast.
In one cast.
That's all we need tomorrow, right?
Yeah, one cast.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty special little spot. That was actually when the Alabama rig first came out, and I had gotten my hands on like some of the originals, and we went to a little lake, and I bet we caught 100 in like 2 hours or something, 3 hours. It was like you rarely made a cast where you didn't catch 2, but most of the time you caught at least 3 on every cast. And not all of them were that big. We'd catch some 2-pounders, 1.5-pounders. But that one cast was, it was well over 20, like 25, 27.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I need a hope and a prayer and a little bit of something else.
Yeah. So to our viewers, and we've been doing this now long enough. Like, y'all have heard us talk about the 2 Moon Junction. We've done one like the last 2 years. Like right after we do one, but this is the first one we've done here. But Warhola's got 4th place last year.
Yeah.
First ever time. And then this morning at like 8 o'clock, my phone was in the console, but I just looked at my watch and it said, heading back to the trailer already. And I was like, damn.
Yeah, my fish did not play this morning at all. About 8 o'clock, I knew I was in a bind. By 11 o'clock, I was like, oh, shit. And then
That's a bad feeling.
Yeah, and then I finally caught 2 and was like, okay, I might have something. And then that something did not happen the rest of the day.
Well, just think, okay, so like we're not really, this tournament's all for bragging rights. So you don't, there's not a lot of money or nothing like that. But imagine how Andrew feels.
Oh, I don't get to fish it.
Not for this. I'm saying for like an actual tournament where there's a fuck ton of money on the line.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're like, I can't figure this shit out.
Well, no, it's the most frustrating like crap ever.
It just frustrates.
Especially when guys are weighing 20+ pound bags, and you're just like, "What?
I got 8.
What am I doing
with 5 fish?"
I'm just so frustrated because I've been on fish for 2 weeks, like good fish, and then all of a sudden,
but it just
the
goes
rain
to show you,
comes.
Yeah, that's the thing. The lake comes up.
Mother Nature.
I'm so new to this that I have no clue how to adjust to it whatsoever. So I'm literally just scrambling around. And today I was like, okay, new water. Lake's getting bigger. The banks are swelling. It's pushing up. I'm just going to start flipping. So I started flipping today, and I caught 2 decent fish flipping.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay. And I don't know. I have no clue what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Well, that was like, when the sun got real high and the pressure got real high, the bite got real tough.
Yeah.
But we kind of learned at the end of the day, that all the new water we couldn't fish yesterday, we went and started flipping it.
Yeah.
Just, with Porter caught a fish that he caught a fish and then I caught a fish and they both had a crawfish in their gullet. Yeah. So that just tipped us off right there. So then I switched over to a rage crawl.
Yeah.
3 casts in a row. Boom, boom, boom. And then every bit of new water that had a tree in it, if you threw that rage crawl by it, every time.
The fish
every
I caught
time,
flipping on a speed crawl.
And it was like, that just kind of tipped us like, oh, all that new water, that's what they're eating.
Yeah.
That water just flooded is those crawfish
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Like so the water's come up, just for anybody watching, the water's come up about 2 to 3 foot since they started practicing. So we had a really big rain this week. I actually fished a tournament at Beaver Lake. Okay. And this is in Arkansas. And this one, the FLW Tour days, and the last day we could practice was Tuesday, and so we had off day Wednesday. We started the tournament on Thursday. So it started raining Tuesday, and now this particular lake, this is one that I've top 10'd on bed fishing. Like, it is a bed fishing lake. Like, it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite lakes in the country, and you don't catch big ones. You catch a lot of 2 to 3 pounders, but it levels the playing field significantly. Well, I found it was the best practice I'd ever had on beaver. I'd found so many really big fish, and I say really big, like 3.5 to 4.5 pounders. But I had a bunch of them. I shook off a bunch of them. I felt like I could catch a 20-pound bag on day one, like no questions asked. It started raining Tuesday night. It rained all day Wednesday and all morning Thursday. Okay, or like through the night. It came up 11 feet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God.
11 feet.
I'd just stay at the house.
I was like, all of us were kind of joking about it because we were like, what the heck are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because it was just so comical because, like, everybody gone out there and practiced. We'd all spend all this time, and literally it was like, let's just throw the biggest wrench possible into the event, and it came up legitimately 11 feet. I've never in my life, like, we all launched our boats and we're like, what are you going to do today? I don't know. Like, we're just going to go fishing.
How'd you do?
Actually, I rolled up on a little saddle of a point that was out of the water, significantly out of the water. I was like, I wonder if there's any fish on it with the water coming up. And the shad happened to be spawning on it, and I crushed on them that morning. Nice. And, just honestly, like blind luck kind of crap.
You were just fishing.
Yeah,
You just went back. You went back to old school.
I
Okay.
I was like, oh man, like maybe a topwater, and I pick up I tied on, like literally didn't even change the hooks. I tied on a little topwater and cool, and just started catching them, and we caught them the rest of the time.
It's crazy how much has changed just from yesterday.
Dude,
it's insane.
I had I went into this week really not saying I was going to win it, but I've been on some fish in the back of Palagacho. This rain just railed me to hell. Yeah. And like today we just went out and just grinded.
Yeah. I went yesterday and I knew that I could catch 12 pounds there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that was it was one of those deals. It's like, yeah, we'd go there, we'd catch probably 12 pounds. And we caught 14, but it was still, it was not something that it was like, oh yeah, there's guaranteed, and it's still tomorrow. I think we can still do the same. I feel confident about probably 12 pounds, but it's not, we don't have a better game plan.
No, our game plan was let's go beat the banks, any patch of grass we find, and then random schools of bass out in the middle of the boat lane we're going to go and cast at.
Yeah, it's hard to game plan that kind of stuff. A lot of guys are going to sit there and tell you, well, go throw a frog in the new grass, or go throw a buzz bait, or go flip. There's really no perfect thing to go do. You can go fish some of the freshwater. The problem is a lot of times it takes a little time for them to get there. Mm-hmm. They don't just show up there and like, oh, okay, we're just going to go up there automatically unless something else goes up there. If the shad go up there, the crawfish are there, something like that. But it normally takes them a day or two to really lock in on whatever it is. Whenever I caught them when the lake came high, it is because there was a significant shad spawn that just started, literally started that morning. And it started in all the fresh green bushes. Yeah. And it just kind of happened. But that doesn't always happen. It's just honestly, the other thing that hurt y'all's event more than anything is the cold nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're talking fish that are still trying to spawn. There was a shad spawn going on before these cold nights started. And it's thrown everything a big wrench, like all tournaments do. That y'all are getting a real good taste of what I deal with every single time I hit the lake.
Yeah. So yesterday, Porter and I went. I threw a jerk bait, and water was a perfect depth. I was just tickling the top of the grass, catching fish. Today, I went through a jerk bait in there. I couldn't even get to the grass. Yeah. Got to a deeper jerk bait, couldn't get to the grass. Yeah. And then yesterday afternoon, I went through a buzzbait. I fished all three things you just mentioned, by the way, today. Mm-hmm. Threw a buzzbait yesterday afternoon and smoked them. Yeah. Went and threw a buzzbait today. I had 3 short strikes this morning and not a single bite the rest of the day. That's why I resorted to flipping. Yep.
And they just locked down because of the high pressure. Yeah. I think they bit yesterday pretty good. I know my dad caught a real big one. Yeah. And he had a couple of real big bites, and
they bit in that wind for whatever reason.
And the wind's gonna blow a little bit tomorrow. It won't be as high pressure tomorrow. I think they'll bite better tomorrow. It's already a warmer night than it was yesterday. So
yeah, we're wearing I got some sweatpants for you. Rance lost his sweatpants today.
Well, hold up. I was sitting on my sweatpants. We were running down the lake, dodging 80 fucking pontoon boats.
Yeah.
Just out there booze cruising in the main lake.
There was a lot.
And then Porter on his Ranger, I don't know what Ranger was thinking, Ranger boats. If you're listening to this, anybody there, his rod strap, like that holds his rods on the deck, would hold 80 fucking rods. I'm not exaggerating. Like the Velcro would dome over the deck like that, so it doesn't hold just like 3 or 4 efficiently. So they were strapped down. Well, the wind blew the strap off, so his rods were going everywhere. So I got off the seat to grab his rods, and my sweatpants went out the back.
So it was Porter's fault.
It really was. That's
I'm going to blame it on the pontoon boats. It was the bumping. It made my rods jump. It probably loosened that Velcro a little bit.
It probably made him miss that bass, too, when his drag slipped off because it probably loosened a little bit while it was.
Dude, I maybe missed 2 bites today.
We capitalized.
No, we were like, there wasn't, I wouldn't say like anything that like those 2 were like detrimental to anything I did today. Like I fished good today for the bites I got. Everything I basically had, like it worked out. I just wish there was a big bite,
I think the big bites are going to be harder to come by right now, especially today, just because of the high pressure and the water. Just like
it was a terrible fishing day.
Yeah, it was the worst fishing day that y'all could ask for. Yeah. Dead calm. Anytime it's dead calm and high front, or high, high pressure, like it just makes it for a miserable day.
Yeah.
I mean, for y'all to have even caught what you caught was probably really good. And tomorrow you'll probably roll out there and catch a 6-pounder first thing in the morning. So,
Please, for the love of God.
Like, that's what we were just like, dude.
All day, bro.
We just had, dude, a 6-pounder right now.
It'd be so clutch.
Well, honestly, a 4-pounder, like, because like you said, today was a hard day of fishing. There's some actually really good fishermen in this tournament, like and Corey and them are in first. We're in third right now, but we're less than 2 pounds behind, and it's like we're just all we needed was that 6-pounder today. We'd be leading this thing.
I'm probably in like 32nd or something. I don't know.
No, you're not in 32nd. There's some people that zeroed.
Oh, good.
Like today was tough. We just a blind hog will find an acorn.
It's fun though, man. That's the thing I've like enjoyed with the bass deal, and I'm like in this bass fishing situation because I have a 6-year-old who's absolutely obsessed with bass fishing. That's when like normal kids watch Bluey and shit. He watches like KVD and the Classic on Toledo. Like he's obsessed with it to the point where like I figured I better get somewhat decent at it so he doesn't get away from wanting to do it, because I think that's a good path for him.
No, that's great.
So that's kind of like why I'm going down this road that I'm going down now, and got out of the like red fishing tournament series and the whole saltwater scene, just because.
I mean, you still are, and I'm not trying to, suck your wiener right now, but you are still one of the goats at the wahoo fishing. But I think you'll get the hang of the bass fishing.
I mean, I grew up bass fishing, and I enjoyed it when I was a kid, and like I fished here at Toledo, down in Ski Cove, and way south end of the lake, and then fishing ponds and stuff and whatnot. So I have like a gist of it, but now I'm just dove off into it to the point where I sold my redfish tournament rig and bought a Skeeter. So
there you go.
So we'll see how it goes, but it's been fun. I enjoy it. And like today, even though that I sucked it up today and didn't do very well, it was like a great learning experience for me. And I'm in that mindset where I'm not like, there's never a loss. It's always like a learning experience, and I'm just going to keep compounding it until I figure this whole situation out at some point.
Well, that'll probably never happen. Andrew will probably tell you that. You probably never figure it out.
Well, I'm not saying that I want to be like one of the best, but I want to figure it out to where I at least catch 5 on a day like today. You know what I'm saying? Instead of 2.
Well, like I said before, I mean, you can have the best fishing day ever and still come in with 2 for 7. I mean, it's just sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug.
Absolutely.
And so, we've all had those days where it doesn't matter what the heck you do. The ones that I hate the worst is when you continually make adjustments and it's the wrong adjustment every single time.
And you're just getting farther and farther.
Yeah, and you're like, what am I doing? You just almost need to go back to the boat ramp, put it on the trailer, and relaunch your boat and be like, all right, what am I going to do
that's
now?
like back to what I was saying earlier about like you get to the weigh-in at those elite deals or those opens, and then you realize that there's 30 guys that really figured it out. And
today,
then it would make me really be like, what am I doing?
Today,
like, how did this...
Today for me, I made an adjustment and I caught fish, and I was like, okay, I figured it out. I'm just going to grind this out, and I'm going to catch my 5, and we're going to figure out tomorrow. And then I like boom, 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 and I caught a couple shorts, and I caught 2 keepers, boom, boom. Then I caught short, 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 and I was like, okay, keeper's going to come. We're going to keep grinding it out, and then it just went and nothing. And I was like, okay, so now what do I do?
10 a.m. today, I looked at Porter and I said, it's about to get real tough, brother.
Yeah.
If you ain't got your 5 by now.
I didn't have a fish in the live well until 11:15.
Well, you did pretty good, because I'm telling you, about 10:30, that sun got right above us, and I knew right then it got tough for everybody fishing out there.
Yeah, I think my dad had one at 9:30. I called him. He probably was so worn out from me calling him. I called him like 11. He had 3, and I called him at 12:50, and he had finally caught his 5th one, and I'm like, God dang, it took you long enough.
Yeah.
But I didn't fish it. My boat was getting rigged, and my son, like your kid, he wants to fish. He wanted to fish this tournament so bad, and I'm like, Kane, no, I ain't doing it. We're not gonna fish this one. Maybe next year, maybe. And it's not that he can't go out there and do it. I have a lot of stuff going on. Trying to get boats rigged. I'll leave at the end of this week to go to a big event. So, a lot of my time has been just trying to get ready. for everything I got coming, and and that's just part of it. But it's on the flip side of all, like you're talking about your child getting into bass fishing. That's all he wants to watch. My son loves to play sports, track, football, all these different things, and for the longest of time, we collected football cards, and he's like super big into football cards. So my wife and I, we don't just kind of half-ass everything. Like when we go into it, we go all into it.
You whole-ass it.
Yeah. And so, like football cards, we got a lot of freaking football cards, like a whole hell of a lot of football cards. Well, now he's back into these Pokemon cards.
Oh boy, I'm there too.
And holy crap! And it's not even that he even gives a crap, but all his friends are into it.
Yep.
And he has all these football cards, and he's like, "Hey, y'all want to trade some football?" He's like, "No, we want to trade Pokemon cards." So in return, I've had to learn more about Pokemon, and which bothers me to no end. To the point where, like, today he's like, "Daddy, which character is this?" And I told him the name. He's like, "How did you know that?" I said, "Because I know way too much about this shit, and I wish I didn't, but I just know about Pokemon now."
That's so funny that I didn't even know that was like.
Oh, it's huge.
Because that became that was a thing. I know, like Ryan's like y'all are all a little bit older than me, but that was like when I was like a young kid. It became popular.
Like when we were kids.
Yeah,
that was like the big
that was the
deal.
thing.
Like,
so
for
like
people, that was like
that's
the
funny.
generation, the first generation. That shit was huge when we were kids.
That's what I mean. I remember like I had Pokemon cards, and then I threw them all away because I was like,
idiot.
Well, I am now. I look back, I'm like,
money.
what the hell was I thinking? But I was big into collecting.
That's why
baseball.
they're worth so much money because all of us threw them away.
I lucked out on the Pokemon deal because my wife's brother, my brother-in-law, lives across the street. And he was part of that generation when it first come out, so he's like still into it. So I tell Brooks, I'm like, Pokemon, it's across the street. Fishing, hunting, right here.
Yeah. But at least you're kind of embracing that with your kid. And that's the only reason I'm bringing it up because like I'm the furthest from somebody that gets into that crap.
Yeah.
But if that is what my kid's into, like by God, I'm gonna be into whatever.
I will say this: if Uncle didn't live across the street and was like into it. Then I would have to be into it. But he's into it and he enjoys it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let y'all have that one.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and take the hunting and fishing side of things.
No, that's the way to go. Yeah. And I mean, hopefully, eventually, he gets back into the football card side. Because I love the football card side of things. Like
I love collecting cards.
Oh my God,
man.
We're like super big
sports
into
cards.
it.
Yeah,
but there's some money in them Pokemon cards.
There's money in them sports cards too, dude.
We sat there and we went in this big card store in Tyler the other day. Okay, and this lady sits and talks to me because I'm a football collector, so she has these like, harder to get packs, and we're talking about all that, and he wants these Pokemon packs, whatever, and we buy this like cheap ass pack. All right, like no big deal.
Yeah.
And he draws a damn card that base price ungraded is like a $90 card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and I start looking up some of his other cards, and he's got some that are like $20 to $50 ungraded. And I'm like, Jesus, I've got football cards that, like, some of my high-end football cards aren't even worth $50.
There's some Pokemon cards that are like $300-$400.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know anything about them, but I'll call Uncle and I'll go, hey, Blake, I'm at Target. There's these Pokemon cards. Which one? I'm going to buy Brooks some cards because he likes them. I'm going to bring them home and say, here you go, buddy. Y'all can open them.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about them. And my whole mindset is I'm not going to genuinely enjoy it, but his uncle does. So get at it, So I'll go buy these cards. Well, I bought some like $12 pack of cards. Something cheap. I asked Blake, I said, hey, what's something cheap? I'm going to buy him a pack of cards. Hey, buy this one. It could have something good in it. There's a card that he needs. It's like, okay. So I buy it, and I bring it home. Brooks opens it up, and they start freaking out. And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, this is a $300 card.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, dude, what? Like, yeah, this card's $300. I said I paid $12 for that deal.
Oh, the return on investment, as far as cards go, is higher on Pokemon than any of these like football cards or any of that shit. I mean, it's crazy. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's how I was.
Like,
I was like, wow,
we're buying like $5 and $6, $7 packs, and these cards are going for like $20, $30 a piece.
God,
it is unbelievable. The return.
I'm spending $7.99 on Gary Yamamoto's.
Yeah, and what are you getting on that return?
Nothing.
Maybe a bite.
Maybe a bite.
Yeah.
Maybe. Usually I'm casting them off.
Yeah, no,
I can't get rid of them, But it's like, damn, I just used the whole pack on casting.
That is the difference, though. But Kane does like to go fish. He walks the bank. He begged me to fish this tournament. So that is the positive side of things. And obviously he's in the sports, like I said. So, but I do applaud you for going all out for your kid. I mean, because the thing is I get a lot of people who's like, man, is Kane going to be a pro fisherman when he grows up? I was like, he can be pro whatever the hell he wants to be when he grows up. I said, I'll support whatever the hell he wants to do.
That's we have the Rice Festival in Winnie every year, and this year in 2023 in October, Brooks, his mama decided he needs to do the little Rice King contest, which it's whatever mama wants to do it, we'll do it.
Oh, definitely.
And he gets up there, and it's not scripted. We don't know what the questions are going to be for the little kids. He was 5 at the time. And they asked him, he said, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And he goes, I'm going to be a professional bass fisherman in the Bass Masters, and I'm going to have a YouTube channel called Get Hooked with Brooks. And that's what he told the lady. And I said, you know what? Let's go for it. Yeah. Might as well.
Yeah. I mean,
that's as good as a dream as any.
Yeah, my son the other day said he wanted to start his own YouTube channel, and he wants to be bottle flipping on his YouTube channel. Okay, sounds good to me. So whatever you want to be good at, buddy.
Sure. Speaking of YouTube, you have a YouTube channel.
I do, yeah.
And go ahead and plug that.
Yeah, no, it's Andrew Upshaw Fishing, and I've had it for a little while. We started that whenever I left FLW, and when that whole merger MLF thing went down, and honestly, we just started as an avenue to kind of promote ourselves. And I'd seen a lot of these big YouTubers and stuff, and it really wasn't about that. We just wanted to give a different element of content, and kind of the real side of what goes on, and not just the fluffy side. And so that's kind of changed, that kind of spurred me into Let's Fish TV. I have a TV show now that's on Bally Sports Southwest, Southeast, and Sportsman's Channel. And now it's just this big media company that went from literally shooting videos on an iPhone and a GoPro to now actually having my own TV show. So that's cool. I got to see the light a little bit with Scott Martin, and when we were traveling together, and I was like, man, this is so much bigger than I ever thought it could be.
He does a good job.
He does a great job.
I watch him quite often.
But he surrounds himself with some really awesome people. McCoy is one of his camera guys. He's had a lot of really good. Brandon is another one they used to have. Those guys work tirelessly to get him really good content, but so does Scott. Scott is one of the hardest working people I've ever been around.
You can tell that just watching it, and a lot of people you can tell that like it's they're just doing it to do it, but you can tell that he truly
he's very passionate about it and bringing the right kind of content to people, and so when I was looking at the blueprint, let's just say the blueprint of how to get started, and I realized in 2020 just how little I did for my sponsors. Like how much I just scraped the surface of just enough to get them a return. Mm-hmm. And I was relying so much on, FLW or BASS to promote me when I wasn't promoting myself. Yeah. And what I learned was I was like, okay, you're being a lazy ass. You need to get off your ass and go do some work. And when I started the YouTube side of things, that was the first step. And then I was like, how can I make this bigger? Because I've always been that kind of person that's like, okay, I want to make it bigger and better always. And I'm not saying I reached the top of the YouTube game because I've only got 30,000 subscribers, but and I know there's guys with 500,000, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million subscribers. And there's definitely bigger, but at the same time, I also know that YouTube right now is super oversaturated with a lot of content creators. And so how can I make myself different? And I'm a one-man show. So, my deal was, I'll go into TV and see what we can do there. And everybody talks about TV's a dime market. They're crazy. Dude, TV's awesome. TV is the best because it is pay to play, and not everybody wants to pay. And that's the reality of it. YouTube, anybody can do it for free.
Yeah.
But TV, you got to actually pay to go.
Yeah, you pay for your airtime, and then you're worried.
And so it's a bigger gamble, definitely. Yeah. It's a huge gamble.
You're betting on yourself.
You're betting on yourself. And I've always been a guy that bets on myself. I might, you want to talk about the decline of fishing in my tournaments. Like in 2019, I won 2 big tournaments. I won an FLW Tour event. I won a championship on Cumberland, all in the same year. And then I literally, my last tournament with FLW that I've ever fished, I've never fished another one since then, with MLF or anybody, I won. And that was on Cumberland. And I never fished another event after that. And ever since then, all I've done is bet on myself and said, you know what? Let's see how big we can make this thing. And I've continued to make it bigger, but what I've seen is a decline on some of my tournaments. I say that, but 2 of the last 4 years, I've almost qualified for the elites, you know? So it's just kind of, you know, it's always weird. It's like my very first year when I came in, I didn't even come close to qualifying. The next year, I finished 8th in the points, and they only took 4. And then the next year, I sucked again. And then last year, I finished, after like the 7th or 8th event, I was in like 14th place, and they took 10. You know, so I mean, I was right there again. So I mean, and now this year I've started in my slump like normal, and so next year I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty fantastic year.
With the elites, is there like, if you make it to the elites, is there like a certain number of years you have to make it points and you can stay in the elites?
Yeah, it's 2 years.
2 years, okay.
It's
because I've seen guys who I knew were in the elites, but they're back in the opens.
Yeah, they've had 2 bad years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, the elites they're really hard, and those guys catch them, but the elites are getting a harsh reality right now of how good some of these scopers were.
Oh, yeah.
That came out. Some of these rookies like Milliken and JT Tompkins.
And
Trey McKinney.
Yeah.
These dudes, I mean, look at who's leading.
Puyo Fujita.
Fujita's stroking them.
Yeah.
But, like, look who's leading.
Taku Ito.
No, who's leading today at Harris Chain. They had their first day at Harris Chain today, and Garrett, John Garrett's leading it. Another rookie.
And McKinney's not. I saw McKinney said he's sitting in like 7th.
Yeah, I mean, dude, these guys are straight crushing them, and honestly, it has been no different. Like we faced them in the opens, and they killed everybody in the opens that year, and they're killing everybody in the elites.
On a different note, I've never heard of Del Hollow before in my life.
Oh, it's
and
amazing.
the amount of fish that MLF is catching this week on that lake is insane. Like Britt Myers has like 43 fish for 146 pounds or something. That's like over 3 1/4 average.
Yeah,
of like just that is stroking on fish, dude. Like I've never heard of Del Hollow, but pretty crazy.
Break. Float over here.
How about now?
Got you now. Okay.
Yeah, we must have hit it when we took our pee break.
Yeah, we're back. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that question again. Me being new to this whole deal, I'm going to ask a professional bass fisherman, what would you do tomorrow?
Well, I mean, I don't think your game plans are bad. You probably could run the same exact program today or tomorrow that you're in today, because the conditions are going to be different. You're going to have lower pressure. You're going to have a little bit more wind. Some clouds are supposed to show up. I mean, I think that kind of changes everything. The big 8 ball in the room is the fact that the water came up so much, and it's continuing to come up.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on how cold the night gets. I'm a flipper. I like to flip. I like to throw a swim jig. One thing that I would probably recommend, if, say, for instance, you were getting a bunch of bites on a buzz bait or a frog in practice, is to throw a swim jig or throw a swim bait. Those fish will still react to moving baits, but they don't necessarily always want to eat on top.
Yeah.
So that swim jig, that swim bait really tend to get those bites, those fish to commit even when they don't want to sometimes, especially in really, really shallow water like that. When you do get those high pressure sunny days, flipping is really the best way to go. And you got to lock it outside your brain, even when you're not catching them, that eventually you're going to run into them, and you just got to keep going until you run back into them. I would definitely have a flipping stick. I mean, well, it'd be different for me because I would go deep. I would have been deep probably the whole tournament.
Yeah, you told me that if I would have started in the back of Polygot, you would have beat me with 5 casts.
Yeah, I would beat you in 5 casts. and unfortunately speaking, like I don't know if I could have gone out there and zeroed. I mean, the reality is I haven't been on the lake since February. I mean, I haven't made a cast other than walking the bank here since February. So the reality is I could have just not caught anything. I've got places though that they start showing up in mid-April, and I don't care what the water does, go up, go down, it doesn't matter. They start showing up in April, and when you get a bite, you don't get a lot of bites maybe, but in May you start getting a lot of bites. But April they start showing up. When you get a bite, it's an 8+ pounder, or 7. I'll say 7+ pounder, and if you get 5 of them, you have one of those real magical days. And
how much for that location?
that location's really, really expensive.
2 Moon doesn't pay enough.
No. I mean, I could have fished the tournament, and Kane and I could have gone out there. And I told Kane, I said, here's the reality of it, Kane. I said, we could go out with no practice, 0, like haven't been on the lake whatsoever. I said, we would go out there deep on a couple of one place in particular, and there's a very legit chance we show up and catch 35 pounds off of it. Like, extremely legit chance. And I said, if we go catch 35 pounds, I'm going to have a whole neighborhood pissed at me for catching 35 pounds. And I said, it's a no-win situation. And I said, in the flip side of that, let's say, for instance, we go out there and catch 1. I said, how does that look? How does that look?
There's not a win. You're kind of in that. You're right in between a fucking wall and a giant.
And boulder. I was like, honestly, it's just not even worth it. I mean, and so I'm gonna get him into one of these events probably next year. And we probably won't go deep. Just
beat the bank.
We'll just go beat the banks. And
leave you to. You can only fish behind the bridge.
Yeah, and
like so, that's all you can get.
I actually thought about making a little deal where it's like, okay, he has to catch the first fish, and then I'm allowed to fish, or like I can only weigh in 2, and he has to weigh in the other 3.
That's fair.
And something like that, just to make it. And not that I could come out here and 0 both days. Like, the reality is when it comes to tournament fishing, you can be the best that there is and still have bad days.
Yeah, have amazing spots and all that shit, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, I literally could go out to that deep spot tomorrow and sit on it all day and never get a bite.
Yeah.
Or I could go out there and catch, in the first 5 casts, catch 5 giants on a 10XD. I mean, it's just how it goes sometimes. The water coming up does throw a little bit of a wrench in some things, but I know last year we had a Bassmaster Open here, and I was able to catch. I rolled up there and practiced like an idiot. Like, I don't know why I even practiced on it, but April's a little early for it. And I roll up there and I catch an 8 3/4 my first cast, and I'm like, well, I know where I'm spending my tournament, like because I could win right here, like blow the tournament out. And then in the tournament, I rolled up there and I never caught a bass in 2 days.
God,
never had a bite.
Dude, I can't wait. One of these days, it will line up where you get to go fish that, and it's during a tournament.
Oh, I did. I did
I remember
in
you
a
caught
VFL.
Yeah, you caught 30-something pounds.
Yeah, I caught
right?
31 pounds in 8 casts.
Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
Larry, your dad told me about that.
Is that the same? Like, I'm not gonna say where or whatever because I have no clue. But you took Paul out one time.
Mm-hmm.
Paul said
it wasn't on that spot.
It wasn't on that spot, but you told him, you said, "Hey, bring something that can sink down quick," and he's like, and you're like, bigger than a Texas rig, like, and he's like, he said that was awesome. Y'all just went out in the middle of nowhere and just biggins, 4 or 5 pounders, or whatever. I don't even know what all y'all caught, but I thought that was really cool. But
the best day I had on that particular spot was with my dad, which makes it so much better than anything. I don't give a shit about any tournament or anything, just the fact that I was able to experience it with my dad. Our best 5 that day went 42 pounds. Wow. We left the house, and this is no bullshit. It was on July 5th, so it was the day after July 4th. We left the house at 5 p.m. We were back at the house at 6:30 p.m., and we had 42 pounds.
Wow.
The day before, me and my best friend went out, and our best 5 went 37, when we rolled up on it, and it was magical. And I don't know how many 5 to 7 pounders we caught in a row. Like, I mind you, in like consecutive cast, it was probably 20, 25 between that range of fish. I mean, it was a lot. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is crazy. And so my dad is like, of course, he's like, hell, I want to go the next day. And I was like, well, you know, we got the 4th, like, we got all these people in, and finally it got that evening. He's like, do you want to go? And I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Let's slide out there. And his first one was a 10. I caught an 11. And then we caught like a 9 and some other, in an hour and a half, we caught a lot.
That's what we need tomorrow, Rance. 42 pounds tomorrow.
That's what I need tomorrow.
Now, granted, I'm going to say that was when Toledo, in my opinion,
it's when it had the deep grass.
For a really long time. That was when Toledo was fishing the very best I've ever seen it. And even when I won that tournament, that BFL, I hadn't been on the lake in 2 years. Like, when I say I hadn't been on the lake, I hadn't walked the banks and fished. I haven't.
Yeah, you lived in Oklahoma.
Launched a boat.
Right?
I was living in Tulsa. And I showed up for a media event here. And it was in like the second week of May or something like that. And I was like, I'm going to jump in this BFL. And my mom's like, are you serious? Like, why? She's like, you ain't even been on the lake. I was like, I don't care. Like who cares? Like, if I go out there, I'll catch them. If not, like, whatever. That's like, I'm just going for one spot anyway. And like, actually 2 boats were on it. And so I stopped on a place that was like a quarter mile away, but I could watch it. And both boats left. And I roll over there. And I'm like, man, this is kind of where they set up normally. And I line up on it, and I make a cast, and I catch like a 6 or 7 pounder or something like that. I'm like, holy crap, they're there. I said, how these guys not find them? And it was like another big one. And then I went like 2 casts without one, and I picked up a worm, and it was like big one. And I caught whatever my limit was. I caught a 4 pounder was my last one. And I threw out there one more time, and I caught another like 5 or 6 pounder, and it called, and I was like, all right, I'm done. And I just left. I didn't want anybody to see me on it, so I just left. I never made another cast there the rest of the day.
And just went ahead and took that money, dog.
I actually came back to the house because I had to get some Rejuvenate and some G-Juice and stuff, and because I was like, I forgot to put it in the boat, and so I drove all the way over here just to get Rejuvenate, and we just kind of chilled out the rest of the day. Just kind of went and fished some bullcrap. And my co-angler's like, honestly, I'm so terrible with names, but like, I don't remember his name. But I know he talked to my dad, and he's like, I don't give a crap if I caught a fish at all. I got to watch the show go down. Because, I mean, it was a show. I mean, it was like, it was pretty awesome. I mean, for a tournament, you know, like that kind of stuff not always happens, but like, that's the kind of stuff that always happens in practice. You know, like where you just roll up and you just crush on giants. And for it to actually happen in a tournament was pretty freaking cool.
I know that feeling.
Practice, like I used to always say, I was the winner of practice every time.
I almost rather not practice at this point, because last year I didn't even know what the hell I was doing last year, and did better than what I'm at right now. Like,
yeah,
you just beat the banks last year, dog.
No, I didn't beat the banks last year. I threw a topwater last year in the shad spawn. There's a big difference.
Dude, that shad spawn last year was legit. Yeah, and it is not legit right now, and it's because of the cold nights. It was going on. The cold nights kicked it back a little bit. But the reality is like, you could start out in the morning and the shad spawn be going in the green bushes on the main lake and on that kind of stuff, and riprap and stuff. And all it takes is a warm night or two with this water coming up and that fresh water, and they'll really kick it back off. But y'all caught this lake at the worst weekend, truly, in my opinion, that you could have caught it in the last month and a half.
Yeah. Because it's been fishing really good.
No, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Toledo Bend is coming back. I mean, there's grass in a lot of places.
It's fun to fish.
Good body
again.
of water. Yeah. It's got some big fish in it.
Yeah. When Tanner and I fished 2 weeks ago, or no, that was a week and a half ago, that was probably one of the funnest days I've had in a long time, just because it was like we were just fishing, and then we just figured it out. Yeah. And then it was like magical. Just magical. And then we didn't leave because the fishing was bad. We left because I had to go to a daggum concert that I wish I didn't have to go to, because I was having so much fun catching fish.
Yeah, that's the worst is whenever you really, really get on them, and then you gotta adjust your plan. I mean, that's just kind of like that fourth weekend that we had when we were catching all the big ones. I mean, obviously we have a bunch of friends and family in and all this stuff, and it's like, man, like I haven't seen them bite like this ever.
Yeah,
like we need to get our butts back out there and go crush on them some more. But I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes. I mean, honestly, y'all are going to crush on them tomorrow. I have a feeling a lot of guys are going to catch them better. I mean, I wouldn't settle for 14 pounds tomorrow. I'll say that because I think they're going to catch them pretty good.
Well, I'm definitely out of it, but I'm going to try to win tomorrow. So I win one day out of the two. We'll see.
Talking about those days, those magical days, like of a trip I'll never forget ever in my life. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old up here, and got up here, and like me and Andrew are about the same age, so I got up here, and they our parents used to let us go fish in the cove in the boat. You know, we couldn't leave the cove or leave where they couldn't see us or whatever. But I got here, and Andrew was pumped. He's like, "I got a spot, bro. I'm telling you." So we go over there, just right in front of the island, like in front of the boat ramp. You remember that day, dude? We wore out Kentucky bass for 4 hours, bro. I mean, like every cast, like. But you had to hit a spot. But if you hit that spot, it was every cast. I bet we caught 150 Kentuckys, dude. Just
there was a bunch of Kentuckys
over and over and over. But I'll never forget that trip, just that day of just that. Because at that point, like that was like one of the best fishing days of my life. To that point, you know, I'd never caught fish like that.
When I first got the skeeter, it's funny you say Kentuckys. When I first got the skeeter, I got it in into August, 1st of September, and I had to go out of town for work for a week. So I was in North Dakota for a week, and I came back, and the guy's like, "Hey, your skeeter's ready." So I get home, get off the plane, haul ass to Beaumont from Houston, grab the skeeter, go home, and I tell Brooks, "This is like, all right, we're gonna go to Rayburn." So I go to Rayburn. I haven't been on Rayburn in forever, probably since I was in high school, which is 20 plus years ago, and we go and just start wearing out the Kentuckys on flukes. I mean, just boom, 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 just nonstop. Yeah. And he thought I was the greatest bass fisherman ever. We're catching 12-inch Kentuckys, you know. But he thought it was the best thing ever. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big bass angler, buddy."
Yeah,
big
time. Bass guy.
You bet.
Yeah,
big
bass
time.
Guy.
You bet.
But hey, he enjoyed it, so that's what it's all about.
Oh man, you want to get a kid into bass fishing, you get him on a pile of Kentuckys.
But Kentuckys or like one time was with your dad, Andrew. He took me and Paul out, and actually, I think it was your boat. You weren't here. We took your boat out over to the community hole and railed on white bass.
Oh yeah,
all afternoon. Yeah. Like we caught our 3-man limit of white bass.
Definitely.
And I was just like, I'd never seen anything like that. They started schooling up in acres.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like, we're throwing crankbaits, throwing spoons, throwing white, like whatever you threw out there, you're catching like a 1.5, 2.5 pound white bass.
That's cool.
King, king,
well, that's what was so awesome in the summertime here. I mean, Dad and I don't know how many evenings we spent out there, like right before dark. And when Porter says acres, I mean legitimate acres, not an acre, acres of white bass would be schooling, and it did not matter. Like we used to like joke around and like just try different things. Like I remember one time I was throwing like a 3/4 ounce rattle trap, just trying to see if I could catch one on it because it's so much bigger than everything else. And like I doubled up one time on it. I mean, we caught them on spoons, we caught them on crankbaits. Like it was literally like every evening we come in and be like, all right, like what are we gonna try today? You know, because we just wanted to see what we could catch them on.
I haven't seen them like that either.
I haven't seen them like that in quite a few years.
And whenever the Alabama rig came out, they like the year that like I got introduced to it. It might have been out before or whatever, but it came out. They were doing it dirty in here in Polygacho, and I went off onto the point, and I caught 3 at one time on that deal, and I was like, "This shit is so fun." We just ripped their ass. My wife's over there. I'm catching white bass, and my wife's casting at the same spot and catching 4 or 5 pound black bass. I'm like, okay. Yeah. You know, and she's like, I catch way bigger redfish. I don't give a shit about this. I'm like, Hell yeah.
Well, see, like my brother, I took him out to the community hole one time. My brother, for anybody watching, my brother does not fish. Like, he's the opposite of a fisherman. Like, will not do it. Loves to hunt. Like, will go hunt anything and everything. Hunt, hike for elk, whatever. Hates fishing. I wouldn't say hate. He just doesn't want to go do it. Just no desire whatsoever. Well, I took him out there, and it was when the Alabama rig came out, and he wanted to throw an Alabama rig because it was the craze, and everybody was talking about it, and he's like, I just want to see what happens. And I want to say he caught 3 at one time, white bass. And I've never in my life seen my brother that excited that he caught. And, I mean, it was just white. I mean, they were just half white bass. But he caught 3 at once, and he just thought it was the coolest damn thing ever. And then he didn't even fish after that. Like, he caught his 3. And he's like, all right, I'm good. And he sat down there and watched me fish the rest of the time. Never made it. He just wanted to catch more than one at one time.
Yeah.
He was able to do it, and it made his trip right there.
That shit was cool. And I remember when it did come out, that, like you're saying, the craze, every bridge you went by, every hump you went by, I'm talking, I saw so many people throwing that thing, and I was like, I was skeptical about it with black bass, and they were fishing for black bass with it, and I'm like, I'll go rip white bass with it, but I'm not throwing that.
Could you imagine, like, hypothetically speaking, could you imagine had that come out at the first year of forward-facing sonar?
Oh my gosh!
What you would have caught with that thing? I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still, like, when they found OH Ivy and figured that place out, they were catching some monster bass there, but like a Toledo or Gunnersville or a Kentucky Lake in its prime or Rayburn in its prime, first year Alabama rig with forward-facing sonar, dude, I bet it was ridiculous. Like, it would have been, because, I mean, I remember some days that we went out there just flinging it around and catching 30 and 40 and 50
chunking
fish.
And whining. Yeah.
And just being able to see them, oh, my God. I can't even imagine how good it would have been.
I literally said it today while we're chasing those. I was like, I wish I had an Alabama rig tied on right now.
Actually, y'all probably would have caught some with it. I mean, no bull crap. But, I mean, y'all would have probably caught a lot more jiggling a minnow or whatever they call it, dancing a minnow or shaking a minnow or
hover rigging.
The hover rig, whatever.
The hover rig.
You're not doing the hover rig?
Oh, no, I do it. Dude, you want to talk about somebody that sold out bait-wise? Like, I'm a tackle junkie. I have way too many freaking baits and rods and reels and all that shit. But I've got dedicated tackle boxes now. Like, when I say, like, deep tackle boxes to jig heads and minnows and every type of hover rig known to man, like Japanese shit that nobody, like, that you have to special order. And, like, I've got all that stuff. I've got all the different baits. I got all the different jig heads.
I hate to tell you, you're about 30 years late on the jig head with the plastic on it, because that's all we do in the trout world and redfish world.
I've been doing it in the trout world forever. I mean, catching them on but it's just a different deal. Mean, because it is such a, it's a suspended fish. The way they do it, the trout fishing side of things, I've actually tried to apply that to the bass side because I have, I've reeled a spoon a lot. I've done a lot of different things for reds and trout. And it's so hard to cross over those baits and those techniques because, like, you would think you'd take a 16th-ounce jig head with a soft plastic, like jerk shad or something like that on there and be able to kind of worm it through that grass and find those little low spots and potholes and stuff in bass fishing. And you can, but there's not enough of it. When you get in the flats and saltwater, there's miles and miles and miles of potholes and holes in grass and these grass flats, and we don't have that in freshwater as much. And I think that's probably the only reason you don't catch more of them doing it, because I have caught them here, literally here, reeling a gold spoon around because I was like, I got to see if bass will eat it.
Yeah.
Because I caught so many big redfish doing it. And I was like, I got to see. Like, it just looks too good in the water. Like, it's got to be the deal.
It's hard to beat a gold spoon.
Dude, that gold spoon is so legit.
Yeah, I mean, God. When I was fishing redfish tour all the time and all that, I always, regardless if I didn't throw it or not, I had a gold spoon tied on every time I fished a tournament, just because it was there if I needed it.
If the wind blows, you can throw it 500 miles.
Yep.
I mean, you can throw it straight into the wind, and it's going to get as far as you need it to go.
But the tower fishing and redfish tournaments is a live scope to the bass tournament.
Oh, no doubt.
It's the same thing. When people started figuring out the sight fishing for redfish, I was telling Rance earlier. I said, you know what I used to do when I used to grind? I'd drive around till I busted. I'd drive around with the big motor till I busted a school of redfish in a pond, and I'd spin around on the backside of the pond. I'd power pole down, let them chill out, and I'd get on a tower and go find them again.
Yep.
Same.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's the same concept.
And so I got some buddies that are down like in Rockport in that area, and that's where I learned how to redfish and trout from, was from those guys.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable, the tower boats and the burning boats and things that they
just
use.
Burn the bank.
And it's unbelievable how fast you can find reds and how much of a disadvantage you are if you don't have a tower on your boat.
The difference between reds and bass are reds will eat any time of the day, any time, doesn't matter. You put a bait in front of them, they're gonna chomp it.
That's what I said today. Today is a beautiful red fishing day.
Definitely.
You know, like high pressure,
Give
no
me
wind. Yeah,
Yep.
it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's one thing on Let's Fish TV. We're a multi-species show. We're inshore and freshwater. And so about 10 to 12 episodes of our season actually go saltwater. Like, so not this week, but the following week, I'm going to be at Gulf Shores, Alabama beaches, and we're going to be doing a tuna show. We got a saltwater slam that we're doing. We're doing a pompano trip and doing a beach shark show, an all-night shark show, which is going to be badass.
Yeah.
Like the group that we're fishing with, they actually last year caught one of the very first great whites off
That's
the beach.
awesome. Yeah.
And so we're going to do an all-nighter. I spent all night with them that time, and it was cold. Dude, I never thought I could get that cold laying on a beach. And, you know, we had these zero-gravity chairs and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't bring a blanket.
Oof.
And I just had a rain suit. That's all I had. Dude, I was miserable. Like, next level miserable laying on that beach, and we never caught a shark all night. And, I mean, I was up and all night long, just up and down, up and down. I ended up shooting a really cool stingray show, bow fishing stingrays. But yeah, we do a bunch of inshore stuff, and I've really expanded into the inshore side of things. We did a snook show last year. I've done a lot of snook fishing, and I really, man, I love bass fishing. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love tournament fishing. I just like to compete. I come from a very competitive family with sports and everything. But that inshore stuff is fun.
It's fun.
It's
a ton of fun.
You literally, that was my next, plug was, you're not just a freshwater. Your channel is saltwater. You've done peacock bass.
Oh, yeah. We do peacocks. I love to catch crappie. I do a lot of crappie stuff. Actually, we have another peacock trip planned for this fall. We're going to go shoot a few episodes down there catching peacocks, and there's those giant-ass catfish that they have down there.
That's cool.
And piranha. I want to do a specific piranha show. The last time I went down there, I wasn't mentally prepared. And what I mean by that is when you go to the Amazon, let me backtrack. So when I went to the Amazon, I didn't do any research. And, when I go to a tournament, I do an immense amount of research on the body of water, what I'm dealing with, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't Google anything. I didn't have the slightest clue of what the hell I was getting myself into, okay? We spent 2.5 hours one day cutting our way into this pond. And I mean cutting, chainsaws and machetes and wading through the water and, most intense shit that I've ever done. And I'm like, if I'd have known I was doing this, I'd have worked out for 3 months leading up to it. So I would have been not completely just tanked by the time we even got into the pond. Now, granted, it was kind of a worst case scenario. That was during COVID, and the place where we were supposed to fish, they had a big COVID outbreak, so they wouldn't let us fish it. So we had to just kind of improvise and go fish new stuff. So that was part of that reason. But if I went back, I would be way more mentally prepared and know exactly what to expect and have a lot better, probably a better experience, because I did not have that good of experience when I went to the Amazon before. But I'm going to tell you, the last day I was there, I caught an 11.5 pounder on topwater. And that right there, no, I was throwing a sexy dog. Strike King sexy dog. Because it was a bait focused, around Strike King and that kind of stuff. They were big supporters of the show, and they still are. And so it was really trying to push their, you don't have to have the big wood choppers and these giant topwaters to catch fish. I caught the biggest fish of the trip, of the entire boat, on a bass lure, basically.
Yeah. We literally talked about this on the last podcast because me and Ryan had a trip that got canceled twice going down on Amazon. We were going to be on floating bungalows.
Oh, yeah.
Going down the river for 2 weeks. Like, had it paid up. Me and him both lost $1,000 deposit on it for it because flood and then COVID.
Yeah,
like,
COVID.
And that was like what we were going to do was just peacock bass fish 2 weeks, whole deal. And then it just didn't work out. And now we have to reschedule, and we'll definitely do it, though.
Dude, so the best part of the entire trip, it was flooded when we were there. The water was high. And you never really want to go when the water's high. You want to go when the water's low.
Yeah.
Well, we went when the water was high, which was another element of the whole trip just not being great.
Fishing.
And but the way we caught them, my favorite day that we had was me and a buddy of mine from South Carolina, and we were actually flipping whopper ploppers. Like flipping. Like we were up in the trees. Like you imagine Toledo being super high, like super, super high where you're going through the trees. You're doing that, and you're just flipping to these trees and just with that plopper. And I mean, from me to that freezer right there, and just 5 and 6 pounders exploding on it. And that's what we were catching, 4 to 6 pounders all day long. I mean, I caught 40 of them, and it was all just flipping it, and they just I mean, and there's no soft bite. It was all like, and I'm not saying like big ploppers, like a 90, like a little one, like a little 3-inch plopper. And it was like they'd never seen a whopper plopper in their entire life. And oh my God, like I ended up breaking, like legitimately breaking a whopper plopper in half because I caught too many fish on it. And I brought one.
So you swapped a wacky worm, huh?
No, I just catching them. There wasn't really any curveball or any adjustment. Like, that's the only bad thing about going down to a place like that. You're extremely limited on the tackle that you can bring. And so I think that is part of the reason they bring those wood choppers and things like that, because they are so durable and they can catch so many fish. And then quite frankly, they can get most of your baits back. I brought a bunch of different things like spinner baits and all that kind of stuff. I brought a few soft plastics. I brought our Strike King a Z2, which is our oversized jerkbait. That's the stretchy material like a Lastec, and the piranhas would bite it in half in one cast. I'm not even kidding. Like, and you know how durable that stuff is. One cast, you'd be jerking that thing, and it would just go slack, and you're like, what happened? You reel it in and be in half. Like, what in the heck just happened? I mean, like, that's how sharp their teeth are down there. It's unbelievable. But no, if you're going to want to go on a really cool trip, like, Amazon's definitely a place. I've been to Canada and fishing. This year we're supposed to go to Mexico and go fish like El Salto. We got a lot of really cool, different trips to kind of bring you. So we try to always bring something different, and kind of what y'all like to do. I mean, with the Bayou Dragons and all y'all stuff. I mean, y'all definitely bring some different content. I even talked to you about possibly doing a frog catching show, as long as you don't grab a snake.
Yeah, no, that's out the picture. I can't do that.
Need to do next year. Need to do a Wahoo show.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Maybe have you ever done Wahoo?
I've never done a Wahoo show. Dude, I'm all about it.
That would
who came? Black Tip H, Joshua Jorgensen on YouTube. He came with me this year and did a Wahoo show.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Had a good time. He caught his personal best, about an 85 pounder.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so we did a clown knife fish show this year. I shot one in South Florida, and it's a freshwater show, and we were using Active Target 2, and that's literally going to air in like 2 weeks, and that's
cool.
Freaking awesome,
that's
man.
Awesome.
It was one of the coolest trips I've ever done. But I love doing out of the box shows that you don't. Not saying people haven't never done before, because most everything that we do is a regurgitated form of something someone else has done.
Like we do 2 different things, but we do the same thing.
Yeah,
you know, it's all outdoor fishing, hunting. But yeah, dude, if you do want to come down and do the frog tournament,
I think it'd be the coolest thing ever. And I think my viewers would. The thing is like when I took over the show from Barry Stokes, and Barry did a great job of what he did. I bring a different audience. I bring a different feel. The way I like to do things is I like to be out of the box a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You definitely need those in the box shows where you do like your bass show and your crappie show and your striper show and all these kind of different shows. But I really, really, really like catching different things that not everybody is used to. Like last year, we got a lot of flack from bowfish and stingrays. I mean, we had quite a few people were not happy that we did that. And but I think it was still one of my favorite shows because we shot it at night, and not everybody shoots at night. First off, and not everybody shoots a bow fishing TV show.
No doubt.
And especially shooting stingrays, and it kind of highlights a different element of what you can do. Yeah. And so, but a frog show would be super cool.
Yeah, no, I'll keep in touch with you. You're more than welcome to come down and join.
That'd be fun. Spot or two.
Yeah, we did pretty good. Not as good as him, but we.
I actually went the other night at my new spot for this year.
Oh, boy.
And
tell us more.
I caught 9 frogs in 30 minutes, and they weighed 17 pounds.
We're going to have to start feeding our frogs, Ryan.
I guess. I mean,
well, here's the deal. So they said I can't go to Louisiana to catch them no more. So I just made my own crawfish farm.
Well, I literally have 3 crawfish farms that we go to.
Oh, I know, but it's still on that. But even on the Frost Ranch, that's not where I would go.
Oh, I got whites now this year.
Okay, too. There you go. But I'm just saying on Frost, that's not where I would go. I'm going to make that a public statement here on the podcast.
Why is that?
Because it's the cow ditches where the big ones are at.
The cow ditches?
Yeah, like that barely have any water in them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
behind the headquarters. Dinner plates, brother.
Oh, that's where we need to be.
Yeah. That's a pro tip.
Caught 9 frogs for 17 pounds.
Yeah, last year I caught 15 for a little over 30.
31 pounds?
31 pounds.
31 pounds, 15 frogs.
Those frogs were pretty heavy with the crawfish and the stomachs.
Though, we thought we had 15 frogs for almost 20. So over a pound frog. I mean, that's a solid frog.
That's a very solid frog.
That's all big yellow throats. And then Rance sends me a Snapchat. He's sitting there, cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He's like, "You better bring it, brother." And he has literally
the largest frog I'd ever seen in my life.
Almost a 3-pound frog in his hand. I was like,
so you're telling me don't mess with the crawfish?
I promise you. We'll go out there before the frogging tournament. Ride around. I'll show you. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
But no, if you want to come and join, we're about to be put on some frogs.
No, I mean, for real. That sounds like a great time.
That's what, next week? Weekend after next?
Weekend after next. Yeah, I wanted to do it because I'm going to fish the McDonald's. I plan on winning that. And then
big dreams, my brother.
Hey, dude, you got a dream.
I mean, hey, you might as well aim high, buddy.
Yeah, dude, I'm aiming as high as they can, dude.
Give me the McDonald's. The same guy was. Let's see what happens next.
Dude, I will say this: you probably have a better chance of winning the Big Bass Splash, but also the same.
Yeah,
also the same.
Fishing 4,400 boats on a Rayburn with no water.
Yeah,
it ought to be real interesting.
Oh, it is on Rayburn, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go scout frogs.
It has no water.
It has no water.
Void of water right now.
Andrew, I'm fishing the Big Bass Splash in May out here. Just let me catch one fish off your spot, and I will never fish it again.
Well, you won't win off of it. I'm going to tell you, I caught that 11 off of it that one time. Honestly, that was the biggest fish I ever caught, and Dad caught a 10 off of it. I've never caught another fish over 9 off of it. And so I don't know if you could win off the spot.
I'm not trying to win. I can take a couple of hours, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's funny. So Dad and I used to fish the McDonald's some before I became a pro and stuff, and there was one particular event that we decided that year we're not fishing it. Like, we're done with the drama. We're still going to fish because the fishing was that good, like idiots. And we fished all 3 days of the McDonald's. Did not fish the tournament. Just went fishing. And partly just to spend time together. We caught a 9-something that first day. I caught an 11 that second day. Like, legit, 11 and a half. Second biggest fish I ever caught in Toledo, I caught that day.
Dude, I did the same thing. I came up, was just fishing before the tournament. I think it laid, where it laid out, I was up here. I ended up catching a 9.54.
Yeah.
On the weekend, and if I would have signed up for the McDonald's, I wouldn't have won it that year, but I would have ended up getting like 4th overall.
I'd have won it with the 11. I would not have won it with the 9, but I would have won it with the 11 for sure.
I was like, I could have just made like $15,000
off
of this one fish that I was pre-fishing at. I launched at the boat ramp, put my trolling motor down, and casted, caught a 9.5, and I was like, okay, cool. That's a waste.
Well, like Dad yesterday. I mean, he caught his personal best yesterday. It was 11 or around in that range, and it was a monster.
That thing was a monster.
Yeah, it was a big bass.
Dude, that thing was big.
And he caught it the day before the tournament, and then he actually had another one hooked that was, I'm not going to say it was as big, but it was like 8 or 9 pounds. Same day. Then he weighed at 9 pounds a day.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for him.
He had one fish more than all of his fish today. And But he just walked up yesterday, and I was like, how'd you do? He goes, caught my best. And I was like, when someone says that, you're like, psh. He just pulled up his phone, showed me. I was like, God dang.
Yeah, no, it was
that thing's pushing.
Like, he called me, and he's like, dude, I just caught like a tag fish. It's like between 11 and 12. And I'm like, holy shit. I was like, really? He said, yeah, I just sent you a picture, and I'm waiting for it, and it comes through. I was like, that's 11 or 12.
It was pushing. It was pushing. Wow. It was pushing 12 with the tag, and he took one photo, released it. I was like, talk about class.
No, because a couple years ago, I caught my personal best, and it was 27 inches at the end of May. Totally spawned out, and she was 10.54.
Yeah,
and she was skinny, and that one was not.
No,
skinny,
that one
skinny.
was not skinny.
And it was 27 inches. So I'm telling you,
it was a really big one. It was a really, really big one. Yeah. Actually, funny thing is, on Toledo Bend, my biggest fish I ever caught was a 12-pounder. I caught it in February.
Yeah.
Every other 10-pounder I've caught on this lake, I've caught 19 over 10. Every other 10-pounder I've caught in between the months of May and July. And every one of them has been spawned out.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So, like, that just goes to show you the size of fish that you can catch here. This place definitely, in comparison to Rayburn, I've caught, like, one right at 10 pounds on Rayburn, and I fished it a ton. But I've caught 19 over 10 on this lake. I mean, this lake just has an abundance of 10-pounders. I feel like they were probably easier to catch back in the day, truly.
Yeah,
when the grass was thick.
Yeah, and before all the sonar, before all the mapping and all that stuff, I mean, I felt like it was a little bit, you could not necessarily call your shots, but I definitely had some places where I could roll up, and if you got a bite there, it was going to be a really big one. And, I've caught a lot of 9-pounders here and a lot of 8-pounders. But Rayburn just somehow continues to kick out good ones all the time, no matter the time of year or how many boats fish it. I mean, it's just crazy. If Toledo got even half the pressure Rayburn got, it wouldn't kick out the size or the number of big fish that it kicks out currently. It just goes to show you how good they do over at Rayburn, with the restocking programs and stuff with the Texas Parks and Wildlife and stuff. So it is crazy, though, to think how many giants that are here. I think it was last year the lake record was actually broke during a Bass Champs tournament.
16.
Or one of these big tournaments, team tournaments, is like 16-something.
Yeah, like a big 16.
Yeah, and
that replica right there is the Rayburn one.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, and it's crazy to know that, like, there's 16-pounders swimming around in Toledo Bend. And actually, I think there's bigger ones.
What's your PB?
12, just right over 12. I mean, I've caught definitely bigger fish than that weren't bass.
Well, yeah. No,
but no, for a bass, that's my biggest. My biggest smallmouth was just over 7.
That's a giant.
Yeah, it was a giant. It was up at St. Lawrence River, and then I've caught some spotted bass that were 5.5, 5 3/4 pounds. Actually, my dad has the lake record spotted bass on Toledo Bend. And we were in
that was the same day, right?
The same day that I caught my personal best, my 12-pounder.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He caught that one, and we should have culled it. Like, legitimately, we needed to cull it. It was 3 ounces lighter than our next cull. And he's like, you better cull that fish. I'm like, hell no, I ain't culling that fish out. I said, it's a lake record. I said, we're weighing this thing in. We're getting
your
this
dad
record.
is so like, because like anybody else, I'm saying any normal person would have caught that fish yesterday. They brought it to weigh in. They would have got the free replica.
Oh yeah,
all this stuff. Your dad took a photo.
Didn't even get a weight.
Yeah, and just didn't even get a weight.
No.
Just took a photo.
He measured it, got a photo, and was like, I was like, what'd you do with that? I said, why don't you just drive up there to Keith's real quick and weigh it in and get your replica? I said, no doubt you're getting one for that one. Yeah. I said, that was a monstrous fish. He's like, I don't give a shit about that.
No, and
I caught my PB. That's what
he said. I caught my PB. They can't take that away from me.
No,
this was awesome. And I was like, yeah, more power to you, buddy.
Yeah. Hell yeah, brother.
I said, you could have called me. I could have brought you a scale or like anything.
He could have called any of us. I would have drove across the lake.
If he would have told me, any of us would have come and like done, he's like, I didn't want to kill it. I didn't want it to die in my live well, and that's all Dad gives a crap about. Because all he cares about is just going and catching it, and I applaud him for that. I mean, actually, the only fish that I actually have a replica of is my 12-pounder that I caught in the tournament.
And you caught it. You and Paul have a photo together.
Yeah,
it was when Paul caught his 10.
Yeah.
And y'all both got y'all's replicas the same day.
Yeah. And I'd never, all the other 10-pounders I've caught in Toledo, I've never gone and tried to get a replica of. And I could have. I mean, it wasn't, you didn't really want people to know that you caught 10-pounders. Like, because then more people want to come over there. It's the same way with turning share lunkers and stuff. People don't, if you get on a lake that's on fire, the worst thing you can do is start turning in share lunkers, because guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to start promoting the fact that there's share lunkers getting caught on that said lake, and then more people are going to keep showing up and showing up and showing up. Now, granted, I haven't caught share lunkers out here, but I've caught a bunch of 10-pounders, and like the more you post about catching 10-pounders, the more people want to come fishing there.
It's like Ivy right now.
Yeah, like so we kept our mouth shut. I mean, and that's what we did for a really long time, and we just caught big ones. And it was before the YouTube time, and it was before all that stuff. And even then, like, I get people all the time, and they're like, man, why don't you shoot more videos on Toledo? And I'm like, because I want to show y'all anything.
Yeah, that's
I mean, because people watch. Like, they pay attention to that stuff. Like, yeah. So, and honestly, that's why I've cut back a lot of my tournament videos. I stopped really doing a lot of my tournament stuff because we keep going to the same exact bodies of water, and I can go post a video on YouTube about a recap on how I caught them, and a lot of times I was given like true areas and like this is where I caught them and all this kind of stuff, and they'd get 20, 25,000 views, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Well, hell, we'd have a tournament there the next year, and guess what? There would be 20 boats on this stuff. And I'm like, well, you dummy. Like, maybe you should stop talking about it a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
So, and it was just my fault. I mean, more than anything. So, I mean, it's just crazy. I'm happy for my dad. I wish he'd have caught him better today. I have a feeling he'll probably have a little bit better day tomorrow.
I think he will.
I think, like I said, I think everybody will catch him better.
I hope so.
It can't get... Just when you think it can't get much worse, it can.
Yeah.
But we hope it gets better.
We'll see. We'll see.
All you got to do is take this, whatever this muskrat-looking thing is behind you, and for good luck tomorrow, you probably smoke on them.
This is the second time that thing's made it on the podcast, by the way.
That thing is ugly.
Hey, dude.
Was that an albino nutria?
That is an albino nutria.
I got an albino spoonbill mount. We should bring it.
Like, dude, we'll do it on.
Let them all hang out.
Dude, we'll just have all albino. Like, we got some crazy shit. But, Andrew, it's getting late. I got to go catch.
Yeah, y'all got to go catch some fish.
I got to catch 28 pounds.
I'm good. I get
tomorrow.
To sleep in.
Yeah, I know. But
28, that's it? Not 32?
Yeah, I don't know. Andrew, I'm going to slide some money over.
I need a hot 30 to make myself even in contention anymore. So,
dude, Indian mounds, red rattle traps, dude. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, okay, I'll be all right on that.
Dude. Rayburn red rattle traps on Indian mounds, dude.
Yeah, just fish the points.
Just chunk and wine, brother. Chunk and wine.
Just find a point. And
hope and pray and chunk and wine.
Well, y'all go get some rest. Thank y'all for having me on.
Dude, Andrew, this was very fun. Thank you for taking your time out of your day. You're a dad. You're a family man. You're a bass fisherman. So, thank you so much.
I look forward to being back on here eventually sometime, if y'all ever let me back on.
Well, if you come to the frog contest, we'll do one.
Yeah, for sure.
And line up a Wahoo trip too. We need to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm all about that life.
We want to do one on the boat, so
that
would be maybe talking about your first experience of catching a wahoo.
No, that'd be great.
Like that whole situation. So thank you so much, Andrew, Ryan, Rance, and hopefully I'll win the tournament tomorrow.